My name is Jasmine, and I am a recovering drug addict.
My name is Richie Farrell, AKA the Old White Junkie.
And we are your hosts for Exit Team Nashua.
Our mission is to bring recovery into the living room.
Last year, over 72,000 Americans died of an accidental overdose.
That's almost 200 Americans every single day.
We will bring you guests with real-life experiences with addiction and recovery. Welcome to Exit Team Nashua.
Hi, welcome to Exit Team Nashua. My name is Jasmine, and I am your host. Here on Exit Team, we take people with real-life recovery stories, people who have resources for anyone struggling with recovery, any kind of substance use disorder, trauma, you name it. And the goal here is to bring those resources and that hope and that education right into your living room. So today, I am joined by a dear friend. Hello, sir.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm well, Jazz.
Who are you?
I am Phil Spagnuolo.
How do you say it?
Spagnuolo.
I always Phil Spag.
Yeah, that's close enough.
Okay, all right, cool. What's going on?
Yeah, a lot, actually, but, some good, some bad, right, as you know. But the fight continues. I spent the afternoon in Concord today at the State House. One of the candidates filed for her run in the primary, and got a chance to talk to her one-on-one about, Michael. As you know, what happened with that, and so it was a good opportunity that I took to talk to her about that. But things are moving along in other areas. And just trying to keep this train rolling, right? Like we want to try and save as many as we can, and unfortunately, we can't save them all.
Okay, all right. So you're a person in recovery.
I am.
You are. You have sober homes.
I do.
New Life Recovery Homes.
Correct.
Located in Laconia, New Hampshire.
Mm-hmm.
What else do you have going on?
I am running for state senate.
What?
Yeah, I know. Who would have thought?
Are you sure?
Yeah, I'm committed now, so
Okay.
no backing out. But
Okay.
yeah, as you know, I served in the House
Yep.
for a short time that I won in the special election, and just seeing what's going on nationally and locally. We continue to lose people at an unprecedented rate, and I just wanted to make sure that I was doing everything that I could to make a difference. So
Yeah. All right. So what are some of the things that you do to offer services, bring education, resources for people?
yeah, so we we have the sober houses, which are a safe place for guys to come after treatment or getting out of jail. We try to provide a safe environment, a supportive environment for them to transition from those places back into society. We help them get employed, and we hold them accountable. And that's pretty much what we do with the sober houses. So as a result of my business partner and my longtime friend, who was also in recovery, passed away a week ago, this past Tuesday, from an accidental overdose. And as horrible as that was, something really good has come about from this. His sister started a fund for our sober house in an effort to be able to help more guys. Because as you know, one of the biggest hurdles to these guys getting into sober living is money, right? Mm-hmm. There's some very small scholarship programs out there that really struggle to stay funded throughout the year and to help, and what they can help with is not really very much. And so a lot of sober house owners, or I'm going to speak for myself, as a sober house owner, I would take on that financial burden myself. If I really felt like somebody was serious and they really wanted to come to sober living, it wasn't predicated on whether or not they could have had any money to come. It was their desire to do better in life. And some months that made operating very difficult. And anyways, long story short, his sister and his parents came up with an idea to ask for donations to our sober house rather than flowers or whatever. And I was optimistic, but I wasn't really optimistic that it was going to generate a lot of money. But this thing has taken on a life of itself.
It's amazing.
And
I have
really,
goosebumps.
the generosity of people has been amazing. I've had people reach out to me on a regular basis. They started a GoFundMe page, which took on a life of its own, and then I've been getting phone calls throughout the week of people just wanting to help in any way that they can. And it's really it's exciting. It's bittersweet, right? I had to lose my best friend and my business partner for this to happen, but at least something good is coming out of it.
He lives
And
on.
He lives on through this, and we're going to start a charitable foundation in his name to help people and to get into other sober houses, not just ours.
So-
and that's the plan with this situation. But generosity of people has just been phenomenal, really. And it just goes to speak to the fact that people really do want to help, right? Like they want to feel empowered, because there aren't many people that I meet on a daily basis that haven't been touched by this in some way, and many of them have lost loved ones, and they tell me that all the time.
So I last Friday went to a fundraiser. I actually went to two fundraisers, like charity events, I should say. They weren't really fundraisers. And I met some wonderful people that I'd like to put you in contact with.
That would be awesome.
Because they put on these very large fundraisers, and they raise all this money, and they do all this awareness to donate it to people like yourself that are doing something to help others. And I was blown, I've had the honor and privilege of attending a lot of different charity events, and I was just blown away by this particular one that I had gone to last Friday, and how genuine the people were, and how passionate they were, and how much money they raised. I was like, what, are you kidding me? That was amazing. But just how, all the programs, so they don't keep the money. They raise all this money and they donate it out to nonprofits or anyone that is, doing anything to help people. And I was amazed by some of the programs that they were working with, and, different people that they had introduced me to. I met this woman from, I think it's Newburyport, and she has something called the Pelican Fund, and I don't know if you've ever heard of it. And so they put the money up to get people into sober living. And so, the sober living has to be an accountable sober living, and it has to be a 12-step sober living. And the individual that they're going to pay for to go on to sober living has to be someone that, for them, what they choose is abstinence-based,
right.
Is what they choose to fund. But it was just so amazing. And so right now they have 63, they call them kids because they're kids to them. Right now they have 63 kids that they that they're working with, and they don't just place them into sober living, they follow them through. They help them get jobs. They, you know what I mean? Because when you had said that that's what you guys do at New Life, right? Because for me, when I first got sober, like, I was a career criminal. I had been in and out of jail. The only thing I knew how to do was like manipulate and scam people. Right. And for me, I was drawn to the spiritual life. And so if I'm going to stay sober off of living spiritual principles, then I can't be doing these things anymore,
Well, I think that the biggest struggle for people in newly in recovery is that, like you said, like we come from so many different places, right? For me, I came out of jail, right? I know, imagine like a guy like me getting in jail,
What?
right? What? But the truth is
someone check his credentials. He did not come from jail.
That's where I came from, and not that I had spent long stretches of time there, but I had been in and out many times in my illustrious career. And, some people come from the streets, some people, and look, you've met them in recovery. There are doctors and lawyers and police officers. I was in rehab with a judge one time, like all of those things, right? So we come from all of these different places, but the majority of what we're seeing today are guys in their 20s and early 30s who have spent most of their lives outside of society, right? Really never filled out a job application, really don't have any work history, maybe have a felony conviction or 10 on their record, maybe all of these things, right? So they're coming out already as an underdog, right, and the chance of succeeding in the future because of these things, right? And
Accompanied with all the self-defeating thoughts
all
that
the
come
self,
with that.
right?
Yeah.
And so it's important that we recognize this, and look, being in treatment is a great start. But that's all it is. You know as well as I do that the real work begins once you get out of treatment, and what are you afforded, the opportunities that you're afforded once you come out of treatment.
I love that you bring that up. So I work in treatment,
Yeah.
and so clients are constantly arguing with me. Well, why I can run groups. I've been to treatment 10 times, and I don't need to go to further treatment. And I'm like, that's true. You probably can run the groups. You probably know the literature better than I do, but you can't outsmart science, and the neurotransmitters in your brain don't even start repairing for most people until around 90 days sober. So what I'm trying to do is buy you some time, because you have a brain that has the neural pathways, the habits are already formed. So you can sit here and look me dead in the eye and speak from your heart and tell me that you're going to do X, Y, and Z, but you can't choose the way that your brain works.
Right. Brain's been hijacked.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's right. And so, for many people, obviously, there's the physical dependency, right? But there's so much more underneath that, there's the emotional, and for someone, I'll just speak on myself. So I'm a trauma survivor, and I started experiencing trauma pretty much essentially birth.
Right.
So my brain never even got an opportunity to fully develop. I was never in control of my decision making. And so people, you need time. You need time, you need safe structured places to go. You need all these things implemented for you. And I'll speak for myself here again, with having a couple years removed from a substance doesn't mean that I'm cured.
No.
It
No,
doesn't
far
at
from
all.
it. Right.
Just because I'm here today doing a TV show on addiction doesn't mean that 5 months, God willing, 5 months from now I'll still be okay. But that depends on what I do. Between now and those next 5 months, what am I going to do? How am I going to live my life? By the grace of God, I was blessed with a group of very strong women who just took me under their wing and showed me. If I didn't have them, I wouldn't be here.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's what we're, seeing now is that, with just a little bit of support and a little bit of structure, people have a much better chance of, right? I'm not going to sit here and preach to you and tell you that, I have all the answers and everything that we do at our sober house is perfect, because we're not perfect and we never will be. But
You're dealing with people, so you can't control them, and then you're also dealing with the disease.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So there's a lot of things that can happen in there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But people need a place to start from. It's a starting point. And and whatever that is, it doesn't have to be sober living. I'm not saying, all I'm saying is if they're going back to their old terrible situations, after 28 days in treatment, I don't care if it's their 10th time at that 20-day treatment, right?
Yeah.
And that's the problem that we look at this from, society looks at this and says, oh, well, we gave you this opportunity to get better, and now you're not better? What's going on, right?
28 days, you're feeling good, and it gives you the illusion you're better.
Exactly.
That's it. You're not better after 28 days. Your brain hasn't even started yet. Maybe you're clearing up a little bit, but this thing has not even started healing yet.
No, and then there's all, we talked about the outside issues that we have to deal with, whether you're a felon, convicted felon, right, in the state of New Hampshire. You have to check that box on the application. So more than likely, you're not even going to get an opportunity to sit face-to-face with somebody for a job. So your chances of getting a job are not that great. And then you've got, no job training, no work history,
no people skills.
no really
Yeah.
interpersonal people skills, right? So you have all these strikes against you. So what ends up happening, if they don't have somebody there to encourage them and to give them the opportunity to make their lives better, they're going to end up back in the places that we know that people like us end up in without support, back in jail, back in treatment, or at the funeral home. Like there are no other places for people like us that don't have the ability or don't have the support that they need to then, progress in life. I was lucky in the respect that when I got out of jail, I still had a family that was willing to take another chance on me, right? And, my mom let me come and live at her house. I got involved early on in some things in the community that gave me a sense of purpose that I had never felt before. That was the thing. If people always ask me, like, what's the difference between you and so? And I say there's two things. One was that from an early on in my recovery, I had some people that surrounded me and made me believe in myself even when I didn't believe in myself. And I had the ability to get involved in this community organization that valued my opinion and gave me some sense of purpose, right? And that's the one pivotal thing that I can point to that changed everything about the way that I looked at life, was that some people finally valued my opinion, and I was doing something that was meaningful, right? And so, I think that people are just looking for that one little spark in their lives that can make them feel like that they can be part of, because we feel separated from everybody when we're in active addiction. Even with people that we know that love us, we still feel separate from them, right? And until we feel like we're part of, like, we don't really get better.
A very wise man told me very early in my recovery, I think I was just a few days sober, he said, join a cause and be passionate about
Absolutely.
it. Join in. And it just turns out that, like, the more I get sober, the more passionate I am and the more causes that I join and, like, the more that I'm out there, like, doing all these things. But he was right. That's what I needed. And,
Absolutely.
At 4 months sober, at 4 months sober, you're still so vulnerable and you're still so fragile. And for many people, you haven't even come into your own to know who you really are. And at 4 months sober, a man hired me to work in his treatment center. And everybody in my life outside of that man was like, what the hell? Like, that is stupid.
Right.
You are 4 months old. You don't have the skills for this. You are going to relapse. You are going to die. Your life is on this man's hand. Like, people were angry. Mm-hmm. What happened, though, and I would never recommend hiring someone to work in treatment at 4 months sober, ever, especially, like, but what happened was that was what I needed. Mm-hmm. I needed someone to just believe in me enough to just give me that little bit. And, when that man did that for me, I blossomed and flourished with his company, and I blossomed and flourished as a woman. And it was just like, in that moment of him believing in me enough to give me that chance, I have been able to grow into the woman that I am today.
And it's an amazing woman. I have watched you, Jasmine, and I'm I think you're the one person that is involved in more things than I am. I can always, like, look at you and, like, well, at least she's crazier than I am.
Yeah, I know, right? We had a leadership meeting today at work, and they were, like, talking about, like, well, like, maybe we should, like, know if people are normal or not. And I was like, well, do any of us qualify as normal? Because I'm not.
I'm certainly not. Yeah. But thank God for that too, right? Just I've watched what you've done. I've watched the woman that you've become, and I'm proud to call you a friend. But more than that, like, I've seen the lives that you've helped to change, and that's really what this all boils down to. This isn't about notoriety. This isn't about financial gain or any of that stuff. What this is about is saving people's lives.
Right.
Right. My friend Michael, who at 33 years old, from the outside had every reason to live and to prosper and all of those things. And the two questions that I get asked the most by people about this situation is, number one, why, right? Why did this happen? And two, what if? What if I had done more? What if we had, been, paid attention better? What if we had, what if?
You can't control people.
You can't. And there's no explaining why in that very moment he decided that, he was going to either try it one more time or get away with it one more time or whatever the case was, right? Like, the truth is that, knowing him as well as I knew him and having been through the good and the bad with him, I know in my heart of hearts he did not set out to die that day, right? I had just had breakfast with him a few days earlier. He was happier and healthier than I had ever seen him. But it just goes to prove that this disease is so complex. And the problem that, as I see it, Jasmine, and you know, I'm a huge, I'm very vocal about the stigma that surrounds addiction. I think that what's more deadly than the actual drugs that are on the street is the stigma and the judgment and all of those things that we get from other people that don't understand this. That's what kills more people than the actual drugs. The drugs may be the means to an end, but what the reason is that this happens so frequently and happened over 70,000 times last year is because we still look at this as a moral issue. And, you know, through all of this, like I said, some good things have come about from this. The generosity of those people who have donated to this fund, but also it has reinvigorated me into speaking out even more about this issue and
Good to
making
know.
sure that people understand that, you know, a simple word like junkie could put somebody's father, son, brother, sister, wife, whatever, in the ground.
It's
Right.
funny that you bring that up. So yesterday, I spoke at a forum it was like 288 high school students. And before we went on, you know, they talked about like the importance of words and like make sure to like not call someone a drug junkie, drug addict, you know, but to call them, you know, people with substance use disorder. And I was like, you can call me anything. Like
Right.
to me, there is no. And the woman looked at me and she said, yeah, but what about when you were active? And I stopped.
There's the difference.
And I thought about it and I was like, oh my God, yeah. If when I, like today I'm free, I don't care like what you call
Sure,
me. To me,
sure.
today, like,
Well, our good friend calls himself the
Right,
old white
yeah,
junkie, right?
but
That
it-
doesn't offend me in any way.
yeah, but if
Right.
I just like, I was really taken back yesterday because I had never stopped and thought about like if you had said that to me 4 years ago, how I would, what that would do to me and like, would that be my
Absolutely.
breaking point? And I was blown away and I was like, oh my God, I'm going to be more careful with my verbiage now. Yeah.
Absolutely. And that's, you know, that's the thing, right? Because we already feel so, nobody can feel or condemn us as much as we condemn ourselves
Right.
when we're out there, right? This is the other thing that I try to explain to people is that nobody chooses to be a drug addict. Nobody that I've met so far, in the thousands of people that I've met that have suffered from this, have said, yeah, you know, I really wanted to achieve that, you know, being addicted to drugs. Nobody, right? Like this is a slow progression that we started out innocently that ended up in this bad place. And, you know, it just is really important to understand that, you know, people first of all, don't choose there, but more importantly, like we beat ourselves up more than anybody could ever beat ourselves up. The negative self-talk that we have, that internal dialogue that we have is so self-defeating, but as soon as we hear somebody else say it, it crushes us.
Yeah.
It crushes us.
So I was like, when I left that forum yesterday, I was inspired to write a blog. I love blogging. And I was gonna like, the starting title was gonna be, I am not my thoughts. I am not others' opinions. I am not judgment. I am not shame. Because like everything that we're talking about right now, like it just like really stirred something up inside of me yesterday to be like, oh wow, like if you called me a junkie 4 years ago, like I would have took that on. I would have taken what your like opinion of me on and lived that out to be my truth,
Right.
you know? And today, you know, today sometimes I still am impressionable around others, but for the most part, I have the ability to remain authentic to self, but it
Right.
took a lot of work to do that.
Absolutely. You know, somebody asked me the other day, they said, do you think maybe you shouldn't talk so much about the fact that you're in recovery if you're running for Senate? And I was just like, and it was interesting because I had never
We have a
even
genocide
considered
going
it,
on.
right?
Are you kidding me? This makes you useful and unique.
And yeah, I was really taken back. But, you know, look, in some ways I understand it, right? Because conventionally, people aren't very honest about their past, especially when they're running for office, right? It's like we try to sugarcoat everything that we've done in the past, and we try to, you know, but I'm on this mission to make people see two things. One is that we're not all stereotypical what theater projects us to be, or what the negative talk that you hear from ignorant people, like all of those things. That like I'm a strong, capable, intelligent man who can accomplish anything that he sets his mind to, just like anybody else. Just because I suffered from that doesn't mean that I can't accomplish things in my life. So, like, proving to the naysayers, so to speak, but more importantly, proving to the people that are out there suffering still, that I'm a guy that got out of jail less than 4 years ago and have accomplished what I've accomplished, and continue to put myself out there in the public to prove to people that those things are possible. And it's so when that person asked me that question, it was like I almost laughed, because it seemed so ridiculous to
I
me that they would be
probably would've. I did
asking
laugh
me
when you
that
said it.
question, right?
Yeah.
But then it just also, what it did was it said to me that people just don't, there are so many people that just don't understand, right? That they get uncomfortable by me saying that, hey, I'm a recovering heroin addict who spent time in jail, who is serving or served in public office and is now running for state senate. That makes them uncomfortable.
Right.
And that's exactly the effect that I want to have on people, because if they're not uncomfortable, then there's a problem, right? Like
We can keep just ignoring it and, like,
Right.
you know what I mean, pretending that this isn't going on.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. People need to get uncomfortable. Everyone has to get uncomfortable. If you want things to change, the only way to change it is through being uncomfortable, because we've got to do something different, which is just naturally uncomfortable.
Exactly. And it creates the conversations that need to happen, right? Not lip service, because there's been years and years of lip service around this, but there's been very little real conversation on how to better affect what's happening in this area.
For anyone watching that wants to donate to the charitable cause, how do we find that?
So New Life Recovery, we have a Facebook page, website. All of our information is on there. They can reach us through there. There is a GoFundMe page that was set up under Michael Lannon by his sister Kelly. And yeah, I mean, and just they can reach out to me. My phone number is this is if they're looking for help, not just to send money, but 603-273-8442. Anybody that's struggling and needs somebody to talk to or wants some help, I'm always available. So
Please call Phil at 2:30 in the morning.
anytime. This won't be the first time.
I can't believe it's over.
Yeah, I know.
It was
Awesome.
great. Thank you for
It was really
coming
great.
on.
It went by so fast.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for watching. Thank you for sharing your time with us. Please reach out to Phil. Any questions, concerns, you have anyone struggling, you need guidance. He has all the insights, and he's willing to be a tool for you. Thank you, guys. My name is Jasmine, and I am a recovering drug addict.
My name is Richie Farrell, AKA the Old White Junkie.
And we are your hosts for Exit Team Nashua.
Our mission is to bring recovery into the living room.
Last year, over 72,000 Americans died of an accidental overdose.
That's almost 200 Americans every single day.
We will bring you guests with real-life experiences with addiction and recovery. Welcome to Exit Team Nashua.
You tell your story though.
Hi, welcome to Exit Team Nashua. My name is Jasmine, and I am your host. Exit Team is a show that takes people who have experience with, substance use disorder, being in recovery, has resources available, can offer education and any kind of insight. And our goal is to take that and bring it right into your living room. As we know, we are experiencing an epidemic these days, so whatever kind of resources and however we can spread the word, that's our goal. I'm joined by my dear friend Phil.
Hello.
Phil, it's always an honor to have you in studio.
It's always a pleasure to be with you, Jasmine.
How are you doing today?
I'm doing great.
Who's this guy?
Oh, who's this guy?
Hi, my name's Daniel.
Hi, Dan. What brings you to the show?
I got asked to share my experience here with recovery, yeah.
Yeah, so...
Like how we just put you on the spot immediately?
Yeah,
there was supposed to be...
kill it at improv.
There's going to be a lot of that. There was supposed to be another guest, and they couldn't make it. And like a couple hours ago, I just started messaging people, and someone was like, call Dan, he'll definitely come on the show. And I was like, I called him, and he said, yes, he's here. He literally came like right from work to here.
Yeah, I was very reluctant. I was definitely looking for every reason to say no.
He was too.
It's hard to say no to Jasmine.
I told Phil, I was like, he was kind of unsure, and I just gave him the address and said, meet you at the studio.
Got him.
I'm good at what I do. What can I say?
Absolutely.
So it's a show about recovery.
Mm-hmm.
So you're a person in recovery.
Yes.
How long
yes,
have you been able to abstain from a drink or a drug?
Ever since January 20th, 2018.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Good for you. And tell me like a little bit about yourself. Like what qualifies you to be on this show? Tell me a little bit.
If you want like a drug-related qualification.
Sure, yeah, absolutely, without glorifying. But you know what I mean? Like when did it start? Why did it start? What was going on? Like how did you grow up?
Well, I picked up for the first time when I was 12. It was alcohol, so like my family's Brazilian, and like huge stigma against drug use from that culture,
Okay.
Absolutely. But alcohol, freely accepted like it is almost everywhere else. And I just grew up in that environment, there was always parties going on, that's what everybody did. And me, personally...
Where did you grow up?
Clinton, Massachusetts is where I spent most of like my early childhood from 6 to like 12.
Okay.
And like I'd always had trouble fitting in, having came from like another country, moving there, trying to learn English, you know what I mean, not really fitting into.
So you didn't speak English when you... How old were you when you came to the United States? You were 6?
Yeah.
And you didn't speak English?
Yeah, I didn't speak any English. I remember the first word I learned was probably like door and window, and like, dropped me right in school. So like I didn't really, kids know how to make friends, but like I couldn't interact, you know what I mean? Like, didn't know what was the in thing to do, if that's a thing when kids are 6, but like...
Well, I think at 6 years old, there's definitely the ability to feel disconnected, alone, isolated, you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And for many people, that's what addiction stems from. So it sounds like you had experienced that at a very early age.
It's definitely something that like came into play too, because I came from like a really huge family, really close family out of Brazil, and like... that's still a problem I deal with up till now, having gone back and forth to Brazil a lot growing up.
Okay.
There was a lot of that disconnect where like a lot of the people I felt were closest to me were the furthest away. But that, and also growing up in like a suburban community and not having much myself.
Okay.
Was also very different. I'd always sleep over people's houses, and their lifestyles were very different.
You would see all the things that they had, and then like compare yourself to them. Like,
Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah,
Very, very
absolutely.
similar lifestyle to me growing up as well. To me, society always told me I was less than and not good enough because I didn't have. Society has become so materialistic. We have gotten so far away from like our spiritual rituals.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So you're young, you grew up in a suburban neighborhood, you're from another country, you came over here not speaking English, you didn't have the material things that other people did surrounding you, and you grew up in a culture where drinking was encouraged.
Yeah, even that, and like it was kind of easy for me to get into it, just from like my family made it kind of easy.
To
You
get
know what
into
I mean?
alcohol, to get into drinking?
Yeah, to get into partying
Okay.
and stuff like that. They didn't really find it weird for me to do that,
Okay.
you know, in any sense. And whenever, like I spent, like I said, I spent a lot of time going back and forth to Brazil. And whenever I was there, I was always with my cousins, you know, the ones closest to me in age, and we were allowed to do whatever we want. You know what I mean? So
Okay.
like it was really like kind of accepted, but like the way I went into it was very different. You know, the second time I drank, I, you know, ended up having to get my stomach pumped.
Was
Like,
that here or was that over in
that
Brazil?
was here, yeah, in
Here,
the U.S.,
okay.
yeah. You know, never used like a citizen, let's say, a norm, you know. It was always overboard from the get-go,
Okay.
you know.
So there's just always something inside of you, just like going to the next extreme with substances.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. You know, that went on without getting into glorifying. I used from when I was 12 till a few days shy of me turning 28. Not gonna say I didn't know recovery existed, but I didn't know what it was. Had no idea what it was.
I love that because that's what we're doing. That's what we're doing right here, right now.
Yeah.
We're trying to promote recovery.
I think that that's, you know, one thing that gets overlooked often from people like us in recovery because, you know, for me, I'm going to speak for myself. I tried so many times to get sober that, but I forget about the first time that I tried to get sober, and I didn't know what was out there and what was available and what recovery looked like, and I didn't really know anybody in recovery, and you know, I often forget like how difficult it is to take that very first step, right? Because this is a process. Recovery is a process, and I'm not saying that there aren't people that get sober once and they stay sober forever, because they do, but my experience wasn't that, and a lot of people that I've worked with, that was not their experience, right? It was trying over and over again, but that very first moment of like, okay, I know I have a problem, I want help, but like, what does that help look like? What are these people going to do to me? Like, what is this place I'm supposed to go to? Like, what does that entail, and how scary that really is?
For me, even today, sometimes I'm just like, I wish I was normal. I wish I was normal because I don't want to go do this thing, and like I would like to be able to like stay home or like, you know, like make like family life a priority or something like that, and I don't get that luxury or option. I shouldn't say luxury because I actually live a very luxurious life these days.
Right.
So, but yeah. All right, sir.
Yeah, I have
So-
a feeling the same. I get resentful at it, but that's because like there's still like that voice inside of me that wants to use. But like for the most part, like knowing what I know now, I know I can't go back. Like for a long time, I never seeked help, right? Like the opportunity for going to my first detox was just me, just literally, I'd given up all hope on ever breaking the
How old
the
were you when you went to
cycle
your
that I
first
was in.
detox?
I was a few days short of 28.
So your first time like going to detox, you got sober?
Yeah, but I
Okay.
didn't. I had like 2 relapses after that.
Okay.
Right, but it was all from resistance
Okay.
because I still didn't believe that, you know, this was a thing, that addiction was a disease.
Okay.
I was still of the mentality that like I put down the few drugs that were really ruining my life, and that I could go back to just, you know, using using in a controlled fashion,
Okay.
right? That I could be
How did that
that
work?
normal
How did
citizen
that
that could somehow still do hard drugs on the weekend, and like, you know, alcohol falls under my list of hard drugs, just in case anybody's wondering.
Yeah.
You know, it didn't work. I found out I have a lot more issues than just the drugs, right? Because like the second I put like something, a substance in me, like I was already miserable. And like to combat that misery, like ironically, I wanted more drugs, you know what I mean? Which is like the nature of how this works with me anyways. And like, you know, it's like, it didn't do anything for me. It made me realize that like this never really did anything for me. You know, it was just pulling me down like further and further. And like any progress I made, like I stayed clean for 2 months the first time I went to detox, and like I learned more about myself in that 2 months than I had in like 10 years easily.
Isn't it crazy? You just grow
Yeah.
by leaps and bounds when
Yep.
you first get sober, yeah.
And then like I had that like impulse, you know, thought that like, oh, maybe I could, you know, like I'm not an addict. Like I can do this, you know, one night, use like I say I'm gonna use. But like already in the back of my mind, I knew what was going on. I just didn't want to like see it, you know what I mean? Like in like 6 hours, I had gone like overboard, spent every single dollar I had, you know what I mean? And really to no benefit to myself at all. Like I was just in a really dark place really quick, right? So like, you know, and then like 2 weeks after that, even though I was like scared to death of like the realization that just hit me that like this is real. Like, right, like I didn't use and like enjoy it. Like I used harder than I ever did in those 16 years. And like it hit me in a worse way, right? When they say like this is a progressive deal, like I didn't understand that. And then like I was with some old friends and they were having some wine and I thought, hey, right, and this is after me talking it up, like, no, I'm trying to do this thing, I'm not doing any drugs, I'm not drinking, you know what I mean, like I'm about this. And then after just sitting with them for 2 hours, and it's because I wasn't ready for this, man.
Yeah.
I wasn't ready for this, the way the obsession like starts hitting, and once you're obsessing, like you just act compulsively, right? Like I was like, oh, I can have a glass of wine, but they were out of wine, right? They were like, oh, we're all out. It's like, don't worry, we'll go to the liquor store, I'll buy you another bottle of wine. And like from that point on, like by the time I walked out of the liquor store, I had like $100, $200 worth of booze, and I was blacked out within 30 minutes, you know?
So what happened for you to find your way to where you have now?
So it wasn't overnight, because the whole pride and ego thing really had to get breaking down with me. I wasn't accepting help in the beginning. You know, I had like the desire to not use anymore, because I knew it wasn't doing anything for me. It was just destroying me. But like I had trouble allowing myself to be helped, right? Following suggestions from other people that have done this before, and like have been through it, right? Because like in my mind, I'm gonna do this my way. Like that's for the birds, that's crazy service and all this other stuff that people talk about doing, you know, writing step work on yourself and all sorts of deals. I was like, that's all for the birds. Like I'm gonna figure this thing out. And like it was really just like over time, like I started taking a few suggestions here and there. I started doing things that people said helped them. And then like it really reached a critical point after I had been clean for like 6 or 9 months. And I realized that, like, you know, I wasn't, right, people talk about, like, working a program and, like, doing it as it's laid out. And I was still doing a lot of it my way. And I, like, got this opportunity to go, like, on my first vacation clean, right, go see my little sister in California. And we were, like, road tripping and going to all these beautiful places. And I just was miserable the whole time. You know, because like I had gotten comfortable with my environment, and like the people, places, and things were keeping me clean, right? They were keeping me from using. And then once I took myself out of it, and like I wasn't going to meetings every day, I wasn't engaged in the same like service, like activities I had put myself in. And then like I was just left with myself, and I still like hadn't worked on myself. I hadn't changed anything about myself at the core of it, right? And like that brought me to my knees. And like, you know, I want to live a life where I can go on vacation and enjoy it. You know, where I can be
vacation,
around,
damn, dude.
right, where I can be around family and be there, you know, in the moment, not in my head obsessing like, oh, I got to get out of here. Like, this is driving me crazy, you know what I mean? And like, since then, after doing some work on myself, right, like really like following the path as it's laid out for me in what I'm involved in anyways for my recovery, like I've been able to realize a lot of that, a lot more peace of mind, you know what I mean? Be able to take days off, enjoy the whole day, you know?
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so you got sober at 28?
Yeah.
Okay. And what does your life look like now today?
Well, when you're at the bottom, you can only go up, you know what I mean?
6 feet down.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, right. Well, if you're doing the right thing, you can only go up. It's looking like, right, there was a lot of like, I was always really good at keeping the outside looking good. You know, I thought I was, you know, but like, a lot of the things that I gave away are starting to come back,
Such as like material things?
such as an apartment,
Okay.
you know what I mean?
That's huge.
Right.
I remember when I got my first one, I was like, hey. I was like, because I had never got an apartment ever before. Like, I mean, I've had apartments and condos, but they weren't mine. I worked hard for them. Let me tell you what, I did some like schemy things to get them. I was out there like the first apartment that I got that like I worked hard for and I earned. I was so proud of myself. First living room set I bought, I can't even remember.
Right, it's a lot of firsts, you know.
Yeah.
I bought my first like bed, right? Like
Yeah.
all these
Hell yeah.
crazy little things, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Credit scores like starting to come up, you know, because I've like gave away like 2 cars, you know what I mean? Things like that, blown off all sorts of unpaid things, student loans and crap that I started like paying back. And like, you know, it doesn't sound crazy, like, oh, you pay your bills now. Like, that's crazy for me, man. Like,
That is crazy. I get so resentful. I have a good job and like I'm gonna like use this term loosely, but like I'm considered successful, but like there is so much wreckage. And so all my money goes to bills.
oh yeah.
You know, there's just so much
It's
wreckage. I know. It's like, will I ever get out of this?
exhausting.
But it's so necessary for us, right, to make, you know, to make amends with our past, or whatever that looks like financially, emotionally, all of those things. It's the only way that we can move forward, because those things are continually pulling us backwards if we're not working on them. And that's why, you know, I commend you for talking about those things and for having worked on them in relatively early sobriety, you know, and recognizing the importance of doing that. So.
Right. Well, I don't know. There's a lot of things I heard early on, and it was I just really wanted to give myself a chance to actually make it. You know, I spent a year and a half in a recovery house, you know, a sober living situation.
Good for you.
Didn't want to stay. No.
No one does.
Every 3 months, I was looking for an apartment. I was, you know, but like they told me, like I heard a lot, like don't run from a bad situation to put yourself in a worse one. You know what I mean? Which is what I saw a lot of people doing. And, you know, if they survived, you know, like sometimes I'd see them back where I was again, you know what I mean? Which is amazing to see people come back, like, don't get me wrong. But, like, I don't want that for me, you know what I mean? Like, you told me not to make any crazy radical changes, you know what I mean? So it's taking it slow, one thing at a time. Like, I remember moving out. Like, I moved out of there 3 months ago, and I like, had to keep it, like, really like at the front of my mind. Like the only thing that's changing right now is the address. Like everything else is the same. Like, you know, I have to keep doing what I did to get to this point, right? Because like, yeah, I mean, it's working. Simple as that, you know what I mean? A lot can be said. You asked what my life is looking like nowadays, and like I'm starting to rebuild relationships with a lot of the people that I pushed away myself. You know what I mean? Whether I just, you know, whether I just ghosted them, or whether I like just the way I was acting was so aggressive and ludicrous that like they didn't want to talk to me anymore, you know what I mean? Or like that had become surface relationships, you know, relationships with my sister, my brother, mom and dad. biological father, cousins, like, you know, it's crazy to see. My brother got married last week, you know, and I could, like, you know, I could be there and enjoy it, you know what I mean?
That's awesome.
Which is amazing. Like, a lot of our family came up that I hadn't seen in a while, so, like, they were used to seeing me the way I was before, which was, you know, like, I've seen the gradual change. So to me, I don't think I've changed that much.
Yeah.
But they
Yep. Yeah.
you know, I guess I have changed a lot. So yeah, I can see it in their face when they see me, because, you know what I mean. There's a lot of excitement. You know what I mean. A lot of support from my family. So, like, it's not really what I expected. You know what I mean? Because I didn't think I was doing that much damage. Right, but, like, apparently I was. Right, I thought the only person I was hurting was myself at the end of the day, and I decided to take that hit.
I think that's one of the biggest lies that we tell ourselves, right? Is that we're only harming ourselves.
Right.
You know, but now being in recovery and working with others in recovery and dealing with their families, like, I've gained this whole new appreciation of, like, what each individual person that's struggling then affects at least 10 more people around them, right? Like, that's, like, you know, their mom, dad, sister, brothers, aunts, uncles, whatever the case is, right? The ripple effect from our actions and from our suffering is far and wide. And we like to tell ourselves that we're not hurting anybody but ourselves, right? But the truth is, we're hurting a lot of people. The people that love us the most are the ones that are suffering the most from this, right?
Yeah. Well, it's huge. It is huge, because, like you said, a lot of it's unseen ripple effects, and like, you know, I was really nervous. This is the first time I've ever really talked about, like, you know, my addiction or my recovery on a public platform. You know what I mean?
Welcome to the team.
Yeah,
Kate.
Welcome to the team. We got plenty more opportunities
Don't
for
worry.
you. We're gonna send you the list of
Now that
commitments.
Jasmine
Jesus
knows that
Christ.
you'll
We'll
do
see
this.
you out there.
What I signed up for.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Get used
it's,
to these faces.
Yes.
you know, like, you know, since I've been in recovery, like, I've been taught to, like, live in the solution, not the problem. You know what I mean? And, like, it's whether it's my own addiction or, like, the damage that's going on around in society in general, you know, all around us, it's always had an impact on me or caused me to think a certain way. You know what I mean? Just contributing to, like, this negative outlook on the state of affairs, if you want to say that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you can find something negative to focus on within anything.
Yeah, right, absolutely. But, like, I have to live in the solution now. So,
Yep.
like,
Life is what you make of it, friend.
right. I can say the same thing. I don't want to get into, like, specific service that I do, but it was, like, similar for, like, prisons. You know, like, spent my whole life trying to stay out of one. You know what I mean? But, like, if I'm so against that, then why am I not doing anything to help the situation?
Are you?
Yeah.
You do? You go into prisons and you speak?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I try to, like, help where I can.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Service, yeah.
But only because, like, it is such an issue, and it's like, I mean, I'm not a politician, you know what I mean?
Nor am I.
But I feel like a lot of the solutions are money driven. You know what I mean?
Ulterior motives.
Right.
Some people would agree.
Right.
I don't know, but I do know that depending, things can sometimes tend to look that way.
Right, and, like, that's
But you also don't know the truth, and you have to remember that. That's why I stay out of things that I don't know about,
right.
you know?
So, like, at the end of the day, I just do my part. You know what I mean?
And that's all we can do, right? Is
Right.
we try to stay in our lane and find the best way that we can be of service to others that are suffering, right? Like, for me, like, that's the most important. Like, the last thing I really ever wanted to do was serve in politics, but I was led in this path where I realized that in an effort to help a larger amount of people, I needed to do something larger. And, you know,
Woo! Yeah.
right?
Okay. Yeah. Sorry. fired up over here.
And that's the reality of it, right? But until we can help ourselves, like we can't help anybody. We know that, right? The three of us sitting here have tried that more. Like I wanted to focus on everybody else instead of fixing me, right? But once we were able to gain some power and some knowledge, and we can use that in a positive way and use our pasts in a positive way, it gives us more power to in an effort to help others. And for me, I don't know that I would still be sitting here today sober if I wasn't given the opportunity to help others in this. This is the one foundation of my recovery is my opportunities that I have to help others, right? And I think that Jasmine's proof of that. And just having met you, I hear you saying that, right? Like if we don't help the ones that are still suffering and others, like who's going to do it? Like if not me, then who? Right? That's the question that I ask myself all the time.
It is our
You know?
purpose.
It is for sure.
We have all been called to it.
I think so.
And when I fulfill it, I feel very good. They
Always.
call it spiritually intoxicated. Yes,
a
I
good way of
I
putting
can
it.
always tell how I feel. You know, am I living, you know, the way that the universe has intended, or am I living Jazz's way? I can feel it. I know.
Yeah,
You know, I have been spiritually in tuned. You know, I've done a lot of work to get in align with the universe, and I know I can literally feel it in my entire being. When I am not living an authentic way of life, I feel gross. Like physically, mentally, everything seems cloudy. I don't feel good, and for me, that's painful. And so I've got to make two options. You know what I mean? You can only live that way so long until you have to do something to escape the pain. You know, for me, hopefully, it wouldn't be to pick up a substance, but maybe to perhaps engage in bad behavior, something like that, for an effect to
Absolutely.
produce.
We find other ways to substitute for us.
Your show's over, man.
But yeah, before we completely run out of time, I'd be remiss in not mentioning that this is the second time that I've been on this show, and Bobby has not been here. So I'm putting him on notice that the next time he better be here. So
Bobby, you've been called out.
yeah, he's been called out.
I don't know what you're going to do about that. So
We'll have to see.
we'll have to see. Bobby's been called out. It's official. Dan heard it.
Yes,
Yep.
yeah.
All the viewers have heard it.
Picking up your slack, Bob.
Thank you for coming on. Was it as terrible as you thought it would be?
No, absolutely not.
That's good. That's good. Thank you for having. Thank you for coming on, and also thank you for having us on.
That's nice
Good.
to meet you.
Yeah,
Thank
same
you.
here. It was good to hear you. It's always good to hear a fresh perspective from someone that I don't know. You know, it seems like sometimes we travel in these circles that Jasmine and I travel in, and we see the same people, and which I love, don't get me wrong, but it's always nice to hear somebody's fresh view on what got them to where they are today. So,
Right.
yeah, because it teaches me things always.
All right. Thank you for coming. Love you all. Thank you guys for watching. We love you so much. Any questions? Reach out to I Am a Heroin Addict. That's where we are on Facebook, and I can forward them to Dan. Thank you.